Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, we're on CBS Sports HQ set here in downtown Indy. And yes, we're going to have a lot of guests throughout the day, but one might not be bigger than Brandon Staley, head coach of the LA Chargers, joining us here alongside Jamie Eisenberg as well and Jonathan Jones. Brandon, you guys have your team building process never ends. You guys are here in Indianapolis. Give me a feel of how you guys are feeling this week.
Well, it's great to be here with the rest of the NFL. I think everyone just being back together. I think you can feel the energy of the NFL, and I think that's a positive thing. And I think, the NFL Combine kind of represents that beginning of the season. There's a lot of business being done here, whether it's kind of the beginning of free agency, kind of the beginning of the evaluation process and the draft and other stuff. So I think that it's kind of business in 2022, and it's a good feeling. And you also know that, hey, there's 31 other teams here that you're competing against, so you better get to work.
Brandon, on that, there's some talk that the Combine has lost its usefulness maybe. And I'm curious, because you are such a thoughtful guy, what do you and your group get out of this Combine, and how has that evolved over time?
Well, I think you've got to take advantage of the time this week, because I think, there's a lot of time to evaluate. And I think if you don't take advantage of it, then you're going to be behind from a calendar standpoint. But then I think from a process standpoint, you're getting an initial impression with these draft-eligible players. And I think that that's always useful to get that first impression. And you kind of know that it's just one component of the evaluation. I mean, it's such a long process. It's one component. But, hey, you're going to try and put your energy to make sure that you're detailed, and that when you get in these interviews with these players that you're prepared, and and that you go through a really thorough process. And then there's a lot of other business being done here with free agency, meeting with agents, and kind of having that strategic planning. So I think that if you're going to come here to Indianapolis, you need to make sure that you take advantage of it, and I think that that's what we're trying to do.
Brandon, you mentioned free agency. You got a pretty prominent one in Mike Williams coming off, a couple of good seasons, obviously, with the Chargers, good one for you last year. Your thoughts on trying to bring him back, and then if he does leave, does get, a deal elsewhere, can you talk about maybe somebody like Josh Palmer stepping into, I don't know, the same role, but a bigger role in his second season?
Yeah, good question. I think, number one, Mike Williams was fantastic for us this season. I think that when we came in here, what I'm really proud of is the way our offensive coaching staff, our offensive players really brought out the best in him. And I felt like we had a vision for what he could accomplish. And I think that as a coach, it's always that satisfaction when it kind of comes to fruition. And I felt like he put in so much work to his game. And I feel like the chemistry he created with him and Justin, the rest of our receiving core, really allowed us to have that prolific season that we had offensively. And I feel like he really improved as a player. And I think that that's something as a coach you're always excited about. And I think he gives us a dimension in our offense that we need. And I think what he showed last year is that he's a complete receiver. And I think so much when we got here is like, hey, he's outside the red line type receiver, high wire act. But I think he showed a lot more than that last year. Extremely durable. And then, that performance at the end of the season, that's going to give you a lasting impression about kind of what he means to us and the way he competed in that game. So we're going to see where it goes, but we're big fans of Mike Williams, and we'll see where it goes these next couple weeks.
I guess we should cut the tape, send it to his agent. That was a pretty good sales pitch. Trying to
hey, he knows the way that we feel about him, and I think that's the good thing. I think going through my first full off season as a head coach, I think that relationships matter, and I know that we have a really strong one with Mike.
In terms of Josh Palmer, though, if he gets a bigger role, or even just stepping into year two, what do you think about his rookie season?
Yeah, I really felt like Josh in that second half of the season really expressed himself, what he can actually do as a receiver, and I think that when we drafted him, we knew that this guy could play outside or inside. We knew that he could beat press in the SEC. You saw him against all these top corners that actually played a ton as rookies, Pat Surtain, that group of corners from Georgia, and others. And so we felt really strongly his Senior Bowl performance, and I think what he did this year, he came in and just really earned Justin's trust, really I think improved as a player. Chris Beatty did a great job coaching him, and then Keenan and Mike kind of bringing him under their wing, and I'm really excited about his future because he can play any of the receiver spots for us, and he's got a bright future.
I am contractually obligated, Brandon, to ask you about fourth downs, but I want to, because you went for it 34 times. I had to write this down. You went for it 34 times, which is the most by any team with a winning record, right? When you have to go for it 34 times, a lot of times it's out of desperation. You were the only team with a winning record that went for it that many times. A 65% conversion rate was fourth highest among all teams. Everyone has an opinion. In fact, talking with folks even last night, they're like, ask him why he always goes for it on fourth down. But what feedback did you get from your players specifically in exit interviews about your calculated aggressiveness, if you will?
Yeah, I think that was I think my excellent interviews with the players was all the confidence that we need, as a staff going forward. They know exactly why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's the thing, is being transparent with our players, our thought process, and after the game being really open and honest about what happened, taking full ownership when things go well or don't go well, and really focusing on process over result. And I think that that's something that we really are committed to, and I think that what we're trying to establish here is that mindset of the way to win in this league is to score. And I think that from just the way our team was set up this year, the offense was the strength of our football team, and I think that we really wanted to maximize their opportunities. I felt like those situations that we went for this season were advantage situations to us. We didn't feel like they were gambles, like where we were being reckless. We felt like, hey, these are advantage situations for us, and I think that we proved that. And I think if you look throughout the season, from game one to the very last one, I think it gave us an advantage in terms of our overall record. And I think that it allowed us to compete in a different way and really establish something, new, and establish something moving forward that we can build on. And I'm really proud of the way our guys operated in all three phases. And but I think this year we got off to a good start. And, I think I'm always going to err on putting the ball in, our best player's hands, which is Justin Herbert. Whether we throw it or run it, I believe in those guys, Corey Linsley, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. They've proven that they can go win games for us, and then our defense has also proven, hey, we can go get a big stop. Hey, in the Vegas game, in that last game, hey, we go for it on 4th and 1 backed up, don't get it. Hey, we get a 3 and out, they kick a field goal, and we're out of there. So both sides of the ball know how we play, why we do it, and we feel like it gives us an edge.
You mentioned Justin Herbert. I heard your answer yesterday when you were talking to the group in the gaggle. It was more of a holistic, here's everything I want him to work on in the offseason. I want to try to nail you down on it. What is the number one thing you want to see him improve upon going into year 3 now?
I just think the ownership of the offense, really taking all those 10 players that are with him in a given snap and being able to run the show and direct it at the highest level in the NFL, because that's what he's capable of. I think throughout the season he earned that command by how hard he worked, and I think that those guys on our football team, they believe in him so much. And I think now he's got his process, kind of his rhythm and routine with us. He's got that established. So now, hey, you come back and it's the same coaching staff, it's the same offense, and then now we can make those adds, whether it's a scheme, whether it's personnel, to now go elevate his game even more. But I just know that he's got a confidence right now that's really important. And, and I think that it's just next year really bringing out the best in everybody. That's what he did this season. But I think now you hit the grass and you know that this is your offense and you know what it is. There's just such a different gear that you can get to. I'm so proud of him because he's worked so hard to earn that. And again, he's still at the beginning, so there's a lot of room to improve, and I know he's going to make those improvements.
We're starting to run out of time. Just one more before I let you go, and we let you go here. Just for yourself, you mentioned the offseason for you personally, professionally. Have you found Nuggets to be more efficient? How are you approaching this coming season? Yeah,
definitely. I think, last year I explained to everybody that you're doing everything for the first time all the time. And I think that's one of the few times in my life I can say that. So, it brought out the best in me, and there was an energy that required. But I think now, knowing the full scope of the job, I think that you can create a rhythm and a routine for everybody else that also allows them to be their best. And I think that's really important as the head coach, is that you do that for everybody in the organization. I feel a lot more confident in that, having gone through it. And so I think that level of communication, that level of process, I think is going to allow everybody in our organization to become as good as they can be, and that's my goal.
Brandon, sir, appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by CBS Sports HQ for a few minutes.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll send it back to the studio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.